All right, we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the Gunner Technology Livestream, a weekly tech talk for non-techies and techies alike. I'm your host, Jerry Merkins. With me is CEO of Gunner Technology, Cody Swan. What's up, Cody?
What's going on? I'm slumming it today because I'm on vacation in Delaware.
I was going to say, we're looking live at Rehoboth, Delaware, or wherever the heck you are.
Yeah, it's Selbyville, which is right on the border of Maryland and Ocean City.
Oh, nice. Oh, man, that's great.
Yeah, it's been a good time. Got one more day.
Well, thanks for hopping on. I guess we can dive right into it. The Country Store giveaway, and actually, let me look up the name of the Country Store giveaway, which you can sign up for on our Facebook page. Country Store Outfitters is a lifestyle brand for anyone who loves the outdoors. Visit them at countryshoreoutfitters.com. And our winner is Keith J. from Los Angeles, California. Keith, you have a Country Store hat coming your way and copies of our now 4 ebooks, possibly 5. I can never remember how many ebooks you've written this year.
You got a lot of reading to do, Keith.
Get on it, bud.
We want a full report.
And while you're on our Facebook page, go ahead and answer our question of the week, which this past week, what was the question of the week, Cody?
The question of the week last week was, and I say I had the question of the week this week. I was all ready for this week. The question of the week last week was, come on. And it was a pretty simple one. It was a pretty simple one too. It was the Amazon. Wasn't the Amazon Hulu? Yeah.
There you
go. Do you subscribe to Amazon Prime TV, Netflix, or Hulu? And it was, I think, like one person probably lied and said no.
Yeah,
but other than that, I know.
What a troll! He's just trying to throw off the 100%.
But it was like 96%. Or 98.6% said yes.
I wonder if that's going to be the future. I wonder, if network TV, movie theaters. I mean, I think movie theaters are definitely on the way out, but I wonder if all media is basically just going to be consumed digitally through either subscription services or through sites like YouTube or Vimeo or anything that just hosts sort of amateur content.
Well, it's weird because we even left 2 of them out, which is Apple. Apple has its own production channel now where they're pumping out their own original programming.
Isn't there Voodoo too or something like that?
Well, they say YouTube Red.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good one.
And they actually released a show that I want to see called Cobra Kai. Literally the original Karate Kid. Where I really want to see that, and I haven't checked it out yet.
They played previews for that before movies, and it looks absolutely ridiculous.
Oh,
it's like a really old what's that guy's name? Ralph Macchio.
A
really old Ralph Macchio and a really old whatever the blonde guy's name is.
Exactly. And I think Cobra Kai is like the good guys in this one. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It's a bit of a twist. So I wonder who they're going to get to play the Mr. Miyagi character, because that guy can't be around.
No, he died. He died a couple years ago.
Only a couple years ago? He was like 80 in the first Karate Kid.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago that he died. I don't think, because I remember seeing it and shedding a little bit of a tear.
And then karate kicking a child in the face.
Then I swept a 12-year-old's leg out of the...
Yeah, exactly. Remembrance. I guess we'll dive right into the topic of the day today. Oh, actually, before we do that, what's the question of the week for next week?
The question of the week for next week is, what technologies, if any, have made your life better?
Huh. Is that a free-form
response? Free-form.
Or is it a yes/no question?
No, free-form. What technologies, if any, have made your life better? Yes. But actually, before that, I wanted to say it's kind of weird how we talk about how new ideas are actually old ideas repackaged. And I don't know if you remember, but back in the early days of cable, you had very few channels, and then you paid specifically for the Disney Channel and specifically for this channel. And that's kind of like what we're going back to, but in a different medium. Rather than cable companies, we're paying internet companies. So it's kind of weird how we're coming full circle again, where we're paying for specifically what we want and getting like a very pared down base package kind of thing.
Yeah, and I guess the whole bundle idea actually came from the cable companies because it was a way to, like, I guess, provide a service by giving you all these channels for a flat rate, but it sort of locked its customers into whatever package they picked. So it's
Right.
pretty good for them too.
Well, and it was a good way. It was a good way because the cable companies, for example, pay ESPN. So it was a good way for the cable companies to get people who never watch ESPN
to pay for ESPN. Oh yeah, that's really interesting. What's this going to mean for? I guess this is a total aside, but what the heck? Why not? What's this mean for companies like ESPN whose entire business model sort of depends on those kickbacks from the cable companies for the subscription packages they sell that include ESPN, when people are just going to sort of cut the cable and get stuff on demand?
Well, it's let's put it this way: it's not good. You have ESPN, even they're really pushing their a la carte channel, which is called ESPN Plus, and that is like their own subscription service where they have original programming on ESPN Plus. And from what I understand, it's been a disaster so far.
Gosh.
But when you see something like ESPN doing that, you know the traditional model is in trouble. And basically, if enough people cut the cord, then the cable companies are basically like, hey, look, ESPN, we cannot pay your fee to put you on the satellite, kind of thing.
What does ESPN do at that point with all their lucrative league contracts?
Well, it has such sweeping ramifications, because that it'll start meaning that the Fox Sports, the ESPNs, they can't pay the leagues, they can't pay the leagues for the rights, and it really touches on a big decline that we've been seeing in sports overall.
Yeah, and I guess the interesting there too is that sports are getting picked off by. I was just at the Overwatch League playoffs in Los Angeles. Sports are getting sort of wrecked by these sort of up and coming leagues, I guess you could call them. All these esports leagues they play constantly. They don't really. There's not necessarily the idea of a season, nor is there sort of the need for players to take a couple months off to recuperate and recover from the season they just played. So it's just nonstop content. It's an overwhelming amount of content too. I mean, Twitch is thousands upon thousands of videos every day from like professional level gamers. So, and there's a huge interest among that too of the younger generation and a declining interest in traditional sports. So it's going to be even more dire for traditional sports and I guess traditional sports providers.
Yeah,
than just like the cable companies screwing them over.
Yeah, and you see ESPN and trying to get in on the esports, and they televise esports now. They
played the Overwatch League playoffs, or the finals. The first day of the finals from the Barclays Center was on ESPN2, I think, one of their flagship networks. But it's kind of like your grandpa showing you a videotape of like a VHS tape of a video game, being like, "Isn't this neat, son?"
Yeah, I was gonna say it's ESPN kind of broke in by changing the way sports recovered. You know, they like by getting in on hockey and college sports early on, they kind of revolutionized the way sports recovered. Now they're going ass backward and they're playing catch up, and it's like yeah, like going off to college, comes back and attends your high school. That's kind of where we've gotten with ESPN covering these esports.
It's sad. I think ESPN. It's going to be interesting to see what they do, because they've sort of got to play a bit of catch up at this point. Otherwise, they're toast. But that's so many companies.
Yeah, the combination of weaning interest in sports in general and cable cutters is just really, and also this thinking about the move toward streaming or dedicated subscription channels, because MLB has one already. How long is it before NFL? And I think NBA has one. So
NBA definitely has one. Yeah.
So if you can buy the NBA streaming package and the MLB streaming package, you know, you're really removing a lot of the need for ESPN at all.
You can buy NFL Red Zone. That's really all you need to watch for the NFL.
At the end of the day, maybe ESPN will actually go back to being like a news network and actually breaking down games and covering the news aspect and the fundamentals of sports, rather than being this entertainment channel that's like true Hollywood story for sports.
Yeah, that might not be a bad direction to go back to like the hard hitting analysis. Like what was that Sunday NFL show with Jaworski?
NFL matchup.
That was just the best. It was like the best show on
Hodge
TV. Meryl Hodge, yeah.
It really was. It really was.
Yeah. Take it from us, ESPN. That's free advice for you from two random guys on the internet. Do that. Make your channel just analysis. I guess all 9 of your channels should just be hardcore analysis of sports. That would definitely last.
And old games. Play old games.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. Old college football games. Just play them constantly.
Exactly.
I'd have that on in the background all the time.
I mean, whatever happened to ESPN Classic?
It's a good question. Still around or not?
I don't think it's around. I don't think it's around. I think it may have gotten rolled into one of the other stations.
Yeah. Well, no, it's still around. Still around.
Oh.
It's just, okay. I think 4 people watch it. And
I don't think I can get it. I don't even think I can get it. Huh.
Weird. Anyways, good luck to ESPN with all these newfangled technologies and esports and whatever the kids are watching these days. But diving right into to our topic of the day, which is another case study. This week's case study is about a really cool app called eCapture. It's actually another. Did we do a marketing app last week? Can't remember.
No, what we did last week, we did iPolish last week.
Oh, okay, yeah. Week before we did a marketing app. So we got a little bit of a niche with sort of marketing related applications. So why don't you give just sort of a broad overview of what eCapture is and how it functions?
Yeah, sure. So it's actually there you go. It's really simple. It's one of those apps that it actually does it impressive. It's one of those things where, like, in order for technology to be useful, it doesn't have to be revolutionary. It just has to serve a specific purpose. And so in our interactions with event companies, like Ticketmaster, for example, there was a problem where they would do event marketing where they would show up at events, so like at a concert or a sporting event, and they'd have this guerrilla style marketing campaigns where they'd be giving away Red Bull or whatever it is, enter to win, enter for a chance to win tickets, for example. And so the reason they do that is because they want people's email addresses so they can later market to them via email marketing. And they tried first to have like iPads that would like collect sign up information through like MailChimp. The problem was that a lot of these events, as you know, a lot of people attend and you actually can't get any sort of reception or anything like that. So they couldn't use electronics or internet connected technology to capture the email addresses. And so then they would move to paper sign up where the people would write down their email address. And that led to hours of data entry after the event. And also most of the time you couldn't even read what someone wrote for their email address. So basically when we heard about that, it was like, well, why don't we just build you an app where it can collect the email addresses, and if it doesn't have connectivity, it just stores them locally. And then as soon as it gets back into an area where it has connectivity, then it syncs all the email addresses to MailChimp or whatever other email program you're using, or it can be exported as a CSV. And so it was basically an iPad or an iPhone application, or excuse me, a tablet or phone application that would run on iOS or Android technologies.
Was it a native application, or was it of a PWA or something entirely different?
It's a native app. It's available on the Google Play Store and the Apple iTunes Store.
So anyone can use eCapture.
Yeah, anyone can use it, although it's free. It's 100% free to use. All you have to do is set up when you first install it, it'll ask you to create a terms of service page and what fields you're interested in capturing from the person, people filling out the forms. And you can self-brand it too. So you can add like a logo. So when people actually fill out the form, it doesn't look like they're filling out something for eCapture. It looks like they're filling out something for Ticketmaster or whatever. Right. So it's kind of customizably white labeled.
And I cut you off there, but you were saying we use React Native, and what did the background stack look like?
Yeah, so the background, it uses AppSync, which is a serverless bundle of technologies from AWS. And basically what it does is it keeps the, depending on whether you're on an Android or an iOS device, it keeps the data in a local SQL-based database, and then as soon as connectivity, it then means the local into a remote DynamoDB table or database that's hosted by Amazon. So it's one of those things we
You
talk
cut
about
off a
all the
bit
time.
there. I think you said when you regain connectivity, it syncs everything to the DynamoDB table.
Yep, that's right.
Once you
That's
you regain a network connection.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And then from there, you can export it however you want, or import it into other services like Mailchimp or Constant Contact or Campaign Monitor or something like that.
What advice would you give for somebody who wants to get involved in React Native, AWS AppSync, serverless technologies, stuff like that?
Yeah, well, it's funny because it touches on the thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to create a kind of pathway for learning about those technologies. And it's AWS offers a lot of resources right now, although it's a little bit overwhelming where you can get lost in the weeds kind of thing. But AppSync is a great place to start. And basically, if you just Google AWS AppSync getting started, it has a great tutorial that'll walk you through the basics of what AppSync is and the technologies it combines, such as GraphQL, React Native, Velocity templates, DynamoDB, Elasticsearch, things like that, or Lambda API gateway. So it's a hodgepodge of technologies that a lot of the nitty gritty. It's so funny because Amazon makes a lot of things easier, and then Amazon releases tools on top of those products that makes even those products easier to use. So basically, if you learn AppSync as a whole, there's a lot of the stuff technologies that you'll touch on, like DynamoDB, like AWS Lambda, but you won't have to have a deep knowledge of any of those technologies in order to use AppSync to connect your app.
And so, what is eCapture currently being used for? What's sort of a use case that we see in the field?
Yeah, so like radio stations are big one is radio stations. So radio stations, they go out to these concerts and they have whatever they want to entice people to sign up. Hey, give us your sign up, and we'll give you a shot to guess how many jelly beans are in the jar, and the closest person to it will email them 2 tickets to the next concert here at this event. That's the big use case, is that on the ground marketing where they're doing something, they're combining giveaways in order to capture email addresses. That's the biggest use case that we see for it.
I remember in high school there was a Count the Jelly Bean contest at the bookstore, and I was within 10 jelly beans of the exact number, and they eliminated me because they thought I stole the correct answer, and they wouldn't count my guess. I still remember that.
That is so. I would be so upset. I was never anywhere close, I don't think.
I was so furious. Well, clearly I'm still furious about it. Like 16 years after the fact.
It's so funny because like you said, they always used to have them at the library, and they would always do it around those times where they'd have those book fairs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which, by the way, side note, I know I told you about this, but one of the books that I used, or one of the series of books that I used to buy at these book fairs that they had at school, were those Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Oh gosh.
Which Benicio del Toro is directing a movie based on those, which is just, I'm sure, going to be terrifying.
I'm already terrified just thinking about how terrifying that's going to be. What's sort of the future of eCapture? What are we looking at down the line as far as additional features, or sort of getting a wider adoption for it, or marketing? Any sort of ideas there?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting because it's one of those things where, like, when we positioned it to the original client who had this problem, it was like, hey, we can take this in one of 2 directions. We can build this for you as a service, where if we build this for you as a service, kind of we own the rights to the code. We can do whatever we want with it. Or we can build this for you as code, as a product. We can develop this product for you and give you the rights to the source code, and you can do whatever you want with it, and it won't be ours anymore. We can still support it, but it won't be ours. And in the latter case, it's much more expensive, because then if we're building a product, we have no way to monetize it in any other shape, form, or fashion. So we're going to charge you not only for the service to build the code, to write the code, but we're going to charge you for the actual license to the product. Like, the exclusive license or the ownership is also going to cost you money as well. Or again, on the former side, we can charge you just for the service to build the product that you need, but we're going to own the licenses for it. We can do whatever we want with it. And so our decision was to release it for anyone to use for free. Now, the one of the things, people are like, well, why would the company pay you for that? Well, without us, the product wouldn't exist, number one. And number two, the other thing that comes along with that payment, with that pay is support. So for example, if they need us to set it up, we set it up. If they, are having problems using it, we support that as well. Troubleshooting, stuff like that. If someone just downloads it from the App Store and can't figure it out, well, you can pay us and we can help you figure it out and set it up and stuff like that. But other than that, you're kind of on your own, sort of thing. So we've taken the client who is very happy with it. There's no further, for example, another company being like, we love this, but we use CRM, we use Salesforce, and we want the emails integrated into Salesforce. Well, right now it doesn't support Salesforce integration. So they could pay us to add Salesforce integration to the application, and we could do that. So that's the way I see this going. We have had people contact us from companies, again, asking how to use this. And we're like, well, we can sell you a support model, which we've had luck in landing those types of gigs, but we haven't had anyone say, I need this functionality. Can I pay you to add this to this? Which is basically it's not open source, but a free to use application kind of thing.
Yeah, freemium kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess those two business models, it's an interesting debate over which one is more effective. Is paying up front and having a product that you can use versus having a partnership going forward where you sort of split the development and the marketing responsibilities and hopefully grow the business together and succeed together, as opposed to paying a much larger amount up front and sort of having sole ownership of the idea.
Yeah, there's certainly pluses and minuses on both sides for the client and us as the vendor kind of thing. I think we generally prefer longer term partnerships rather than building products and throwing them over the fence and handing them off. I think we definitely prefer that, although it really depends on the structure of your company as a development firm. And from the prospect of the client, the aspect of not paying as much for direct ownership of the code, that's often appealing. And most of the time, again, we don't have a sales force, so it's not like we take this code and are shopping it to competitors kind of thing. Number one, we probably wouldn't do that we wouldn't do that to a good partner anyways. If for example we had a client on the East Coast and a non-competing client on the West Coast, we may take it to someone on the West Coast and say, hey, we built this for our East Coast client. You guys don't compete. Do you guys have any interest in this? But we don't have like a sales force, so we're not trying to get mass adoption on any of our B2C type products. So often it's much more appealing to our client to just say, you know what, excuse me, you guys can keep the ownership of the code. We just want the service. We just want the product, and we want you guys to support the product.
Were there any other lessons learned from development on eCapture? I know there was a pretty short run for the release of the application, but was there anything else, any other takeaways from eCapture?
This was the first React Native app where we use GraphQL Apollo, which is a GraphQL client-side library.
And that was you kind of cut out, but it's GraphQL Apollo is the name of it.
Yep. Where we use that instead of Redux. We use Redux actually at first. We used Redux, and then we moved to Apollo. And so we learned a lot about not only Apollo, but GraphQL in general. And so that was a big boon for us. And honestly, every project we've started since then that involves either React or React Native, we've chosen Apollo over Redux. So it was definitely a good learning experience from that standpoint.
Cool. Well, I think that's probably going to do it for the eCapture episode, unless you have any final parting words.
No, again, it was a really simple app. The integration standpoints, again, talking about lessons learned. We did learn a lot about some third-party APIs like the MailChimp API, the Campaign Monitor API, what was the last one? I always forget it. The Constant Contact API. So we learned a lot about API integrations, and again, a little bit about offline storage. That we had done that previously, but this was a little bit. And have to be products. They don't have to be revolutionary. They just have to actually really solve a problem. Instead of trying to solve a theoretical problem, it's so much better to solve real world problems, which is tough because on one side, our eventual client would have never have known that it's possible to do the things that we told them to do. And if we hadn't encountered this client, we wouldn't have known that it was even a problem. I would have assumed this problem was solved a long time ago, and that every radio station and event marketing type place was using something similar. And you really learn that when you get out there in the field and you're talking to clients or potential clients, that there really are very real, very problematic problems that haven't been solved through technology yet.
Would that count as a catch-22? Companies don't know that. Companies don't know that there's a technological solution until technology companies are aware of it, and technology companies aren't aware of it until companies tell them they need a technological solution.
I think so. I think that would count as a catch-22.
It's been in our minds because somebody used the word or the phrase catch-22 completely erroneously, and it's such a pet peeve of mine when people do that. So I guess just as an aside, it's pretty incredible how important mailing lists like and services like MailChimp are when you're trying to grow a business. You can't really overstate how important it is to have a contact list that you can get in touch with about your products and services.
It's crazy, and not only that. I mean, honestly, between text messaging and email, it's the strongest converting method of digital marketing. And when you sort of are able to glean information from your contacts, like you can glean sort of things like what industry they're in, how old they are, even if they're close to purchasing decisions, and create segments based off of that and say, hey, I want to let only business owners know about eCapture. And you have a list of 20,000 people. That's a really, really strong thing. And it really is the highest converting methodology for digital marketing for businesses.
Which I guess is why Facebook and Google are multi-billion-dollar companies, right? Because that's their entire bread and butter.
Exactly. That's exactly right. They are more data. They are more data companies than they are service companies. And by data, I mean by providing information on their users and allowing segmentation of said users. So if you want to get a hold of someone who, again, say likes the University of Florida, you can market just University of Florida.
Do you think there's ever going to be pushback? This is also an aside, and I guess we're kind of getting to the end of the road here. But do you think there's ever going to be pushback from the user's side, where they realize that they're the entire value of these companies, and they're sort of just giving that away for free, that valuable information, I guess, personal information?
I'm sure there's going to be a certain segment that actually have a problem with it and stick to it, and actually just stop using the services. On the flip side, and I think we've talked about this before, the minute where you say, okay, well, this is how we make money. So without this data, we have no way of making money. So you can either say opt into data sharing, or you can pay us to use our service. People are going to opt in to share their data, which maybe that's the way these companies should go. They should be like, hey, you want to use Google? Awesome. It's 99 cents a search, or you agree to share your data with us. I mean, actually, that's not a bad way to go, really. I mean, because if you price the service on an a la carte basis, then some people will just pay, which will be a premium. They'll pay the premium, or passively they can just be like, yeah, you know what, you can know how many dogs I own, or, you know, how close I am to the nearest supermarket kind of thing.
I guess that would be sort of the de rigueur business model of the day, is sort of a la carte services, pay on demand.
Yeah,
Although
I mean,
I feel like even services that you pay for, they use your data. Like Movie Pass, you pay $10 and you get, well, now you get 3 tickets a month. But their entire business model is selling user data. It's not, they're not making money from tickets. They're losing $125 million a quarter from selling movie tickets.
right. And so that's the thing is, you know what's a good model is stock photos. So for those who don't know who stock photos are, like, you see stock photos and stock videos all the time. You just may not know it. And so when companies don't have like a photographer or need a picture of something specific, they buy a photo. And some companies that do this a lot pay a subscription where they get a certain amount of eligible downloads per month. And then most companies who don't use photos so often pay per download of a photo or a video. And so you basically pay a premium. Now, iStock could say, you know what, if you're willing to share with us your data, including where you're using these photos and what you're using these photos for, we can give you the photos for free, or we can take a big percentage off your fee. So there are a la carte services. You know, the New York Times does it, where you can kind of pay them per article sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see if anyone blends the two and says, fine, you have 2 options here. You can use our product for free, but we're going to collect a hell of a lot of data on you, and we're going to sell that data. Or you can pay full price per thing, or maybe we'll charge you this much and capture this data from you price, and charge you full price, or we'll capture all of the data and you can use it for free, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be startling how fast people would give away all of their data to keep using stuff for free. I think you're exactly right there.
I certainly would. I certainly would be like, you know what? I don't care.
Yeah, at this point, just give me the free articles.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if Giphy ever goes to that model and I have to start making a decision on how to use GIFs, then I'm going to be then I'm going to be in trouble.
That's when there's an uprising. That's when there's going to be a revolt. If we can't freely use GIFs, that's like my entire communication capabilities removed in one fell swoop.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I guess that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Gunner Technology Livestream. We actually have one quick question. This is from Facebook. Daryl asks, is Delaware a real place?
I'm not sure. It's so
unclear at this point.
I'm still investigating that, because it is TBD. Because
it's like a Goosebumps novel. You're not sure if it's a real place.
Well, it really is, because then whenever I'm like, oh, this is a cool spot, I didn't know they had places like this in Delaware. Then the bartender's like, oh, well, you're in Maryland right now, so maybe Delaware isn't a real place.
Delaware doesn't exist, and nobody would know. So that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Gunner Technology Livestream. Join us next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the next episode. Hop on our Facebook page to sign up for the Country Shore giveaway. Country Shore is a lifestyle brand for anyone who loves the outdoors. And while you're on our Facebook page, go ahead and answer the question of the week, which remind them, Cody, what the question of the week is this week.
What technologies, if any, have made your life better?
So hop on our Facebook page, answer that wide open question. Check out our ebooks on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, iBooks, Kobo, and anywhere else ebooks are sold. Check out the blog post for this episode at gunnertech.com and the podcast on iTunes. And make sure to tune in next Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time for the next episode of the Gunner Technology Livestream. I'm Derry, that's Cody. We'll see you next week.